All right, everybody, welcome to Bleav in Chargers. We are, off and running into the second half of the NFL season, and the Chargers and Niners just, ended a few days back a Sunday night clash, and it was, listen, the Chargers lose 22-16. Lorenzo and I, we're going to give you our thoughts on that game. I thought the Chargers had no business being in that game, and I think they leave the game disappointed, thinking they could have won that game. Against this 49ers team. But Lo, first off and foremost, man, how you living, man? How you
Hey,
feeling?
I'm living like Biggie, baby. How you living, Biggie Smalls? But I know I'm blessed. I feel legendary, man. God is good. Life is good. I'm excited, man. The season is starting to heat up. You just hit the mid stride, the mid part of the season. Teams are trying to separate themselves from good to great, from great to good, from bad to worse. And that's what I love about the NFL. Any given week, any given Sunday, the worst team can beat the best team, and average teams can beat the best teams. And we saw that on Monday night when you saw the Commanders, the Washington football team, Commanders find a way to beat the undefeated
Incredible.
Philadelphia Eagles at home and absolutely went on the road and beat them up. Ran the ball down Philadelphia's throat. Philadelphia still can't stop the run. And it showed what the Commanders did was show the recipe how you beat a Jalen Hurts Philadelphia team is keep the ball away from them, limit their touches, and ground it and pound them and play good defense. And that was interesting just watching football shake out last week.
And I'm telling y'all, if you were to go to Bet Online, our number one source for all your sports betting needs, I don't think a lot of y'all chose Washington Commanders money line in that one. If you did, you are probably wheeling and dealing in Vegas right now. But guys, listen, you'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online, our number one title sponsor here at Bleav. So head over to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% off welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code Bleav to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. We're here to talk about Chargers Niners on Sunday night. And Lorenzo Neal, there is no doubt that the LA Chargers are just decimated by injury. They're missing half of their entire offensive line. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Jalen Guyton. They lost Gerald Everett in the first half of the game. Justin Herbert had Josh Palmer and a bunch of dudes throwing the ball. J.C. Jackson's out for the year. They lost 2 interior defensive linemen for the season in that game. All right, they're going to have to pick me up to stop the run, and it's talking about Linval Joseph. They're bringing some new guys in the equation. But Lorenzo Neal, a part of it is, listen, you tip your hat off to the Chargers for fighting and being in that game. But, I mean, how many more injuries can this team suffer? This is ridiculous.
Ridiculous is an understatement. I'm going to tell you right now, that was a black and blue game. When you watch that Niner and Charger game, how the physicality of that game, there were some big-time hitting, some pads being popped, and it was awesome to watch the physicality of the game and watch the Chargers say, look, we're going to come in the Levi Stadium and we're going to make this a dogfight and we're going to bloody your nose. And I'm telling you, it was like last man standing. That was a physical game. The Chargers, I don't know how they were able to compete, especially with all the injuries at key positions. And look at that team still bow their neck, had an opportunity to win that game. I don't know how they're competing with all the injuries that they have. And yeah, I do, because they got a guy named Herbert. By the way, let me reintroduce my name. My name is Herbert. That's Justin. The guy's playing. When you watch the way that he carried that team and willed that team last weekend and just making plays when plays didn't seem to be made, he created opportunities. And their defense, once again, even though all the injuries, Borna, they've been, but they didn't break.
And it's unfortunate, too, because I think the Chargers, they forced some turnovers in the first half, and they'd be mad at themselves that they couldn't cash in on those. I think they had 2 turnovers in the first half, only were able to score 6 points. They got inside of the 10-yard line, and they had to settle for 3. And I think those were moments in the game where the Chargers were like, wow, that's where we could have won the game, because one of the keys to beating this Niner team we talked about is if you can get a lead on San Francisco, you have to make Jimmy G win throwing the ball. And they never went down too much, San Francisco, to the point where they could just continue to run the ball. And let's be real, everybody, the Chargers defense was good in the fact that, as Lowe said, they bent, but they didn't break. But man, that run defense, I could have ran for 7 yards a carry against that Chargers run defense. CMC gashing him up, Wilson gashing him up. I mean, everyone was gashing up this Chargers run defense. Lowe, it seemed like every 1st and 10, it became 2nd and 2, huh?
Yeah, believe it or not, the Chargers look like I think the Commanders took a piece of the Niners playbook and said, we're going to do
Interesting.
that against Philadelphia, because The Philadelphia Eagles did exactly what the Niners did. They ran the ball, limited the kind of completion, limited the time that Justin Herbert was going to touch the ball, and they just kept gashing them. And that's what's tough, and it's got to be heartbreaking when you look up and it's 2nd and 2 or 2nd and 3. Now you can run the ball again and on 3rd down. So just the Chargers couldn't take that away. Like you alluded to earlier in the show, if you're going to beat the Niners, have them down by 14 or 21, and now take away the running game. And Jimmy G and the San Francisco offensive line, it's not good enough. I'm telling you, Borna, the offensive line, yes, you got an all-pro in Trent Williams. Besides that, though, are they good enough to hold up for 4 quarters when they have to just pin their ears back and throw the ball? And that answer is no. They don't have a good enough offensive line for Jimmy G to sit back and just have to throw the ball to win it. They don't have a quarterback like Herbert or like Mahomes, that the Niners, that can say, okay, you got to throw the win the ball. They don't have that guy on the roster right now. So when you look at it, yes, the Chargers had plenty of opportunities. If they could have got it, 2 touchdowns up by 3, they had a great opportunity, because then you make the Niners one-dimensional, and Jimmy hasn't shown that he can beat you.
No doubt about it. And I think another thing we looked at when we look at this Charger game is a lot of fans are frustrated with the fact that, why is Justin Herbert checking the ball down? Why is he checking the ball down every time? First of all, it's hard when nobody's getting open. But we take a look at the first drive of that game. It looks like this Charger team was shot out of a cannon. I mean, they looked like the old Chargers offense. They immediately drive down. They immediately score. Herbert finds DeAndre Carter for a wide open touchdown, and it's 7-0. And we're like, whoa, where did this come from? Especially with not a lot of weapons. And I think we're starting to see what in the Chargers land is that they are starting to get healthy, especially Justin Herbert. He is starting to get healthy. And the biggest teller for me knowing that is 2 things. He's using his legs. A lot of quarterback sneaks, a lot more running, a lot more running, using his legs, getting 7-8 yards. And that's how you know that Justin Herbert is healthier. But listen, guys, there's a difference between an excuse and an explanation. And without kind of tumbling down this rabbit hole, I think the difference is relevant. And when we look at the Chargers 22-16 loss, listen, they're not making excuses, but the injuries absolutely are brutal for this team. But there are still areas where this team is not good. And they still cannot establish the run. I
Right.
mean, the
Right.
Chargers, I mean, you guys know the Harry Potter scene where they have to run through the brick wall to get into Hogwarts, the platform 9 3/4. Well, only wizards can do that. The Chargers aren't wizards. They're running into brick walls every single time when they're trying to run the football. Lo, what is the reason? Is the offense too predictable? Does Fred Warner and the defense know exactly what's going to happen? Why can't they get 2 yards running the football?
Yeah, I just think that you got to one. I think Eckler is one of the best running backs far as out of the backfield, creating opportunities, what he can do on the perimeter. He doesn't take big hits. But Eckler has never been known for necessarily a chain mover where he's 4 yards in a cloud of dust, where he can get skinny and ring and run over a guy, move the pal. That's not who he is. If you want that guy, he's not there. That's not Eckler. Eckler is a guy that's a finesse guy, a guy that can catch the ball, make you miss, and take it to the house. Eckler's that guy that you can get him out on the perimeter on a stretch play. Yeah, I think Eckler fits well in the Niners offense. He looks a little bit like McCaffrey in sense that they don't take necessarily big hits, but they're guys that you get them in space, they can hurt you, but you got to create a new line of scrimmage. And I don't think the Chargers are good enough up front with all the injuries to be able to create that new line of scrimmage, to be able to maul and create a new line of scrimmage. And so Eckler has to just go get it. And he's not that type of back. He's the type of back that needs a crease. He's the type of back that you can get guys moving, and then he's a one cut and get north and south, make guys miss. You don't have that type of offensive line. So that is the big deal to me, in my opinion, is saying, look, they can't create a new line of scrimmage. They can't come off. They don't run enough zone where he can say, pick a hole. And guys, they don't got to create a new line of scrimmage. And when you're a zone running team, you got to at least have guys moving lateral. Now he can push it, press the hole, and then cut back. Slow to the hole, and then fast through the hole. That's the kind of back Eckler is. And I just don't think he's getting that.
He's not getting that. And Lo, listen to these numbers. Some of these are insanity. The Niners, out of 30 minutes of game time in the second half, they had the ball for 22 of those minutes. The
Wow.
time of possession battle was absolutely ran by the Niners because their drives low, 7, 8 minutes, running the ball, 13, 14 play drives, depleting. And take a listen to this. The Chargers were up 16-10 at halftime. They put up 0 points in the second half. The defense wasn't the issue. Low, the Chargers, quite frankly, should have won this football game. As crazy as that sounds. And how can you explain a Justin Herbert-led offense failing to score and totaling 52 yards in the second half, Low? 52 yards of total offense for the Chargers in the second half. Incredible, huh?
It's about, yeah, I totally understand. And here's the thing to it. It's about rhythm. And you got to see it by a team that's undefeated. Fast forward to Monday night under the lights. Philadelphia playing at home. They had no rhythm because the Washington Commanders took the ball and they drove it. They ate up clock. They chewed the clock 7, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. And so once they did that, now as an offense, you're sitting on the sideline and you're saying, we got to make plays. You're on as a sideline. If it's 3 and out, your opportunities come up. So when your defense allows them first down, okay, another first down. So another first down. So now the offense, you start to get cold. You're starting to say, okay, you lost your rhythm. So it doesn't, even though they had to punt when the Niners drove 7, 8 minute drives, then you kick the ball. And then if it's 3 and out, and now the Chargers going another drive and no 3 and outs, it limits the amount of plays that your offense get. Yes, offense has to be better. So I'm not just saying it's defense. Offense, the Chargers offense has to be better in the second half. I get that. But when you're limited amount of touches and when the clock is being chewed up, it's hard for an offense to get any type of rhythm.
No doubt. And Lo, at the end of the day, again, I don't want to be Mr. Excuses. The Chargers didn't have enough playmakers to win the game. And Gerald Everett is a playmaker for this team who's been an awesome at tight end, but they lost him in the first half. Otito Ogbonnia out for the season. Christian Covington out for the season. 2 of their run stoppers. They didn't have Austin Johnson. It's Sebastian Joseph Day and then probably Borna Nazar, who's going to be joining him in the front 4 next week, huh? No, I'm telling you, it's pretty ridiculous on that standpoint. But at the end of the day, I see a lot of people clamoring, what is Herbert doing? Why is he checking it down on 3rd and 12? And before I, start to peg on Justin Herbert, what I did was I called my buddies who were at the game and I said, you saw the field. Was anybody open for Herbert to throw the ball? And they said, no. Nobody was open. Of course he had to check it down, right? I mean, it's Joshua Palmer, it's Michael Bandy, and it's guys that I don't even know at this point, who's getting
Right.
open for the Chargers. And it's hard when you don't have Keenan Allen. And I think Justin Herbert is incredibly awesome. But what we've also noticed is how awesome a quarterback is. Every fantastic quarterback, they still have their one security blanket. With Josh Allen, it's Diggs. With Mahomes, it's Kelsey. With Brady, it's Evan, right? With Rodgers, it was Devontae Adams. What happened when Devontae Adams left Green Bay? Oh, breaking news. The Packers are 4-6. Aaron Rodgers doesn't look like Aaron Rodgers of old, even though everyone thinks he's that bad man. So regardless of how awesome your quarterback is, even the great ones, they have that security blanket. And Justin Herbert hasn't had that security blanket. Your guy, Phil Rivers, who was it? It was AG. It was Gates, right? So it's like, how much can you plague on Justin Herbert, Low, when he's throwing to these guys?
You know what? Justin Herbert has to understand that he can't go and do everything. And he's got to understand that, hey, look, they're in a position that a lot of the pressure is on him. It's on him to drive this offense. It's on him to lead this team. He can't look at it that way. He's got to look at it and say, I just got to do my job. Justin Herbert understands he's not going anywhere. He's the face of this franchise. I'm worried about this guy's health. I'm worried about, because he's trying to create. You watch the shots that he's taken, the hits and stuff that he's taken, because he's trying to scramble and make plays happen and trying to keep things alive. You need to worry about his future. You don't want this quarterback getting hurt and saying, now you don't have Justin Herbert, because I'm telling you right now, you put Justin Herbert on the chart on the Niners right now, the Niners win a Super Bowl hands down.
They're winning 7 Super Bowls.
Yeah, with Justin Herbert, with the amount of talent that the Niners have, he would win a Super Bowl this year. You look at the NFC and say, who's going to stop him? If you put Justin Herbert on the Niners with the Debo and Ayuk, and now you say, okay, now we can run the ball, we can do play action, and we can do boots. Look at Kittle. Kittle's been non-factor. because you can't run necessarily boost because Jimmy can't get outside the pocket. But now if you got a guy like Herbert, so I think that people have to just temper down with expectations of Herbert. He's been coming off an injury. You don't have your weapons. You're playing with third and fourth and fifth string receivers, and the guy is still making this team relevant, and they're still competing, and they're still right in the thick of things.
And Lo, at the end of the day, you need talent to win in the NFL. The Chargers are missing too much of it right now. That
Yes.
is not an excuse. That is an explanation. They just are. And we can go into reasons and rationale as to why year in and year out they are always injured. Remember when Lights Out was on the show, Sean said, the key to this team is they have the most talent in the league potentially, but can they stay healthy? And the answer is no. They are the most injured team in the National Football League. And I don't care how good you are on paper. I don't care what the deal is. You cannot win. And the fact that this team is 5-4 is still absurd to me. I mean, with the amount of injuries that they have, it's incredible that they still have a shot here. And speaking of having a shot here, Lo, next week, it doesn't get any easier. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs come to Los Angeles for Sunday Night Football. And if the Chargers want any faith, any chance of winning the division, they need to win this game. The Chiefs come in at 7-2. The Chargers come in at 5-4, 2 games back. It's an absolutely monumental swing if they go 3 games back with 6 games to play versus 1 game back with 6 or 7 games to play. So this Kansas City team is firing on all cylinders. Patrick Mahomes is doing it with Kelsey. Now Kadarius Toney, who they acquired from the Giants, looks like the next coming of God. So it's
Right.
crazy, right? It's crazy what Mahomes and this team is able to do. But why we love Kansas City, a lot of people, is 2 reasons. Number one, it doesn't matter who their tailback is. They continue to run the football. They continue to shove it down your throats day in and day out. And number 2, Steve Spagnuolo is having that defense play with a little bit of grit, tenacity, and edge that, he always has. So, Lo, it doesn't get easier. And unfortunately for the Chargers, they don't get healthier. So, talk about this Kansas City team and how much the Chargers are going to have their hands full.
Yeah, and that's one thing you wish the Chargers could be better running the ball because this is a ball control game. You want to limit the amount of times that Mahomes, like you alluded to, touched the ball. Now you got to realize styles make fight. You have Herbert, and he's going to do his. I think you're still going to have a game and a team that's going to compete. They're just built that way. You can say what you want about the Chargers. They're competing. They're competing at a very, very high level. And they look at several weeks ago when they had their weapons, they should have beat Kansas City Chiefs. I think we talk about a play call. Coach should have ran the ball on 1st and goal on the 2-yard line. You run the ball and you go up double digits. Instead,
Sure.
it's a double digits point swing. So they match up well against Kansas City. You're playing in LA, so you have home crowd. Hopefully, come into effect, but it's going to be tough. Let's not fake. Let's not fool ourselves. I guarantee the line's going to come out probably 5.5 or 6 because of the fact that they are looking at how many injuries that they do have. So I'd be shocked if it wasn't a 5 to 6 points. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh wow, that high. Yes, it should be that high. Probably should be higher.
6.5. It's at 6.5 right now. You nailed it.
Yeah, this is what I do, Born, and this is what I do. So go to Bet Online, baby. So I think that when you look at the Chargers' injuries, I think that this is why it's set at 6.5. So, but I think the Chargers are a team that's poised. They can upset this Kansas City
They definitely
Chiefs team. So it's going to be interesting. See how guys respond this week.
And listen, at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting to see who comes back for this Charger team. Coach Staley said Mike Williams should be practicing this week. Keenan Allen, what's his situation? We talked about this last week, Logan, day-to-day since week 2. How is that chronic hammy? What's the situation with that? Listen, I'll tell you this, Charger fans, and I hate to be a burden of bad news. If Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are playing, pack them up. I mean, if they're not playing, pack them up. At the end of the day, Justin Herbert can only do so much. And I think, one thing on Herbert as well, what I noticed, I kind of breaking down the swim of the Niners game is he had some guys open over the seams that I think he throws to if it's Keenan or Mike. There's a little bit of a trust factor that is really important when you have your security blankets. And even if it's a guy who's just as open as Keenan Wood, I think Herbert was a little bit more reluctant to throw the ball just because there's not that familiarity. There's not that trust level that he has with the Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. And that's not something you can, knock the young quarterback, but that's just kind of what he believes and what he feels. So Again, on Bet Online, Kansas City opens up as 6.5-point favorites. And now when you look at this playoff picture, guys, it's we're in mid-November. We're getting towards Thanksgiving. It's time to start talking about the postseason picture. There are a lot of good teams in this wild card race. I mean, the AFC East has three awesome teams, right? Four awesome teams: the Bills, the Dolphins, the Jets, and I'm forgetting who else is in that division for some reason right now.
Right. But no,
the
AFC is
a lot of good teams.
Yeah, you look at Kansas. Look at the Jets. The Jets is even, they're in the thick of things. You look at New England, the Bills, and the Jets. You got three teams that are
and the Dolphins, all four of them,
and the Dolphins. Yeah, it's the first time that you may, believe it or not, those four teams are going to be fighting for a playoff spot. I mean, you think about where they're at. The AFC to me is just loaded. Then you look at Kansas City and the Chargers. I know, Denver's done and the Raiders are done. That's why you just want this Charger team. You just wish that they were healthy. You wish that they had all hands on deck because, man, they're right in the thick of things. Don't look down, but now look at Cincinnati starting to heat up, and you look at Ravens. So I think that, man, the AFC, man, they just look like this year the AFC is just a little more talent.
There's too many good teams, and not all of those good teams are going to get in, right? And the question is, health is very important, but the Chargers can salvage this if they can get healthy at the right time. But we take a look at this new playoff format with there being 3 wildcard teams. There's now a likelihood that an entire division can get into the postseason. One with the division winner, and then the other 3 wildcard spots in that division. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Dolphins, the Jets, the Bills, and the Patriots all got in the postseason, and they're the entire AFC East, which is absurd, right? The Dolphins, surprisingly, everybody, are leading that division at 7-3. The Jets are at 6-3. The Bills are at 6-3. How crazy is this? As it stands right now, the Buffalo Bills are 3rd in the AFC East. It's insanity.
Yeah, it's insanity. They're 6-3. It's insanity. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought it? And it's crazy because you have an elite quarterback, elite in what he can do with the Bills, Josh Allen. But if you see the games that he lost, the dirt ball that he threw against Miami, if he hits the fullback in the flat, he walks in the end zone. He underchucked it, fumbling the ball last week. And if you think about who's the third loss, that the Jets. So when you think about what
they could be undefeated,
they should, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, no doubt. I think Buffalo is incredible, and I think the Jets are playing great football too. Robert Saleh has that defense.
He's got them playing. The defense humming, man. The defense is humming. He's got them playing. You look at. I think that the best thing that could have happened to Bill, not Bill Parcells, but New England Patriots, Belichick, is when the quarterback went down. Because when he went down, the young guy came in, the backup came in.
Zappe. Yeah.
And Zappe came in and held it down. But also Zappe lighted a fire under the starting quarterback's butt because you know what? He showed that he could win. And Belichick, Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe, you remember that story. Tom Brady outplayed him and took over. So he understands. So I think New England, they build they build that level of competition like no other. And look at the quarterback play, the way those two guys are playing.
Lo, I want to ask you this about the Chargers before we wrap it up. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, go check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Lo, I want to ask you, if you're general manager Tom Telesco, if you're ownership, is it tough evaluating this coaching staff because of all the injuries? Right? How much of the evaluation goes into, schematically we're broken and this coaching staff isn't figuring out, versus how much of it is, are you giving them the benefit of the doubt of, oh my goodness, everyone's hurt? How do you go into the evaluation process of year 2 in the Staley regime?
Tough. It really, Borna, that's a great question. It's tough because you can only look at what you see and what you watch and what you view. And you got to say, okay, injuries, how much of a factor have they played? A big factor. But then you go to and say, okay, so how many of these things that we've seen has been self-inflicted? Like, what has been the decision-making on some of these games that you say, okay, besides injuries, could we had won? Is there a game that you look at and say, man, I question? And you got to admit, and there's no way that you doesn't say Kansas City, and you look at Kansas City and you think about what it could have been. What could have happened, and also you think about another game that you won, but you say, makes you just question, and that's friggin' the Browns. that if you don't question those two games as an owner or as a GM, just to say, hey, what did you get? What did you see? You call him in the office, you sit down and say, take me through these plays, take me through what
Let me
was
get in your
going on.
mind. Yeah.
Yes, you have to, because those are decisions
Mhm.
that could have changed this season. I mean, you take Kansas City and you put that as a win, and you think about just not competing, maybe it's on coaches, maybe it's the coaches, and say, why did we have, why did we put Herbert out there against Jacksonville?
Yeah,
Was
that's a
was
great
that
question.
why? So when you're asking me, these are the questions that if I'm the GM, if I'm the owner, I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you. I need to know what was your mindset. You have a 14-year vet on your roster, with still with some pretty good weapons. Do you think that he was probably? What made you say I don't want to go with him? Because did he at that particular day give you the best chance of winning that football game?
But Lo, I don't know, because you saw Chase Daniel come in for a few plays in that Niners game when they had to evaluate Herbert for a concussion, and it looked like an absolute mess. So then it goes to show you, I think it highlights the flaws of the scheme, because when you look at a scheme, an elite quarterback is supposed to elevate that already foundational scheme in place. But even if it's a great scheme, a backup quarterback is able to at least right the ship and carry the offense. I remember when Mahomes got hurt in the playoff game against Cleveland and Chad Henne came in. Chad Henne looked really good in that offense. Obviously, he's not Mahomes, but what does that go to show you? It goes to show you that Kansas City's scheme is very strong, and any average quarterback can thrive in it, versus is Justin Herbert carrying the lackluster scheme of the Chargers? Because when you saw Chase Daniel come in, it looked like an absolute mess. So what does it go to show you? The scheme is probably flawed, and we have an amazing quarterback trying to carry it and mask up the flaws.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's also just a scheme, and also, like you alluded to earlier in the show, lack of talent. When you
Yeah.
think about when Chase walked into the huddle and they tried to run a play, he got sacked right when he touched the ball. They were in the backfield. So Herbert just shows you that, hey, athletically, and he can get out of trouble and make the bad play good. So I don't know if it's scheme as much as it is also not having the talent, because Borman, we know this offensive line is decimated.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely decimated. I mean, absolutely decimated. And guys, again, we'll be wrapping it up shortly. But at the end of the day, guys, it's now or never for the Chargers season. Second straight week of Sunday night football. When the Chiefs took the field inside of SoFi last year, an AFC West lead was on the line. The Chargers had that game in their hands and they lost it, and eventually lost in overtime in a thriller against Kansas City. And listen, it's still Justin Herbert under the bright lights of prime time. And as long as he is on the field, folks, the Chargers will have a chance, and maybe a rather minuscule one on this time, but a chance nonetheless. And at the end of the day, when we take a look at this Chargers offense, they're basically in the middle of the pack. 15th in total yards per game, 16th in points. And I think that's something where we're a little bit confused. We thought that this would be a surefire top 7 offense in the National Football League. And unfortunately, the defense is what's struggling again for the Chargers. They're 30th. They're 30th in rushing yards allowed. They're 20th in total yards allowed. They're 29th in total points allowed. So at the end of the day, the defense is just not good. But we noticed that they have a chance if the defense can bend and don't break. And what did we notice? They gave up a ton of yards to San Francisco. But once San Francisco got in the red zone, Staley stacked the box and he made Jimmy G beat him in the air. And it was proven to be a good recipe. So, Lo, give me your keys to the victory against Kansas City for the Chargers.
Yeah, I think you got to find a way to run the ball. I think you got to sit and say, hey, look, we got to go ahead and say, we got to find a way to run the ball. If not, we got to do more bubble screens. We got to find a way to get the ball into Eckler's hand on bubble screens. Get 3 guys in front of him, put 3 guys to his side, and then send him the opposite way. Create the one-on-one matchups with Eckler. That's 1. 2, you got to say who's going to be the tight end. Don't know who's going to step up and play, but you got to find somebody that can control the sticks. So that's why you want a lot of stuff that you're going to make the running back flare out. So make the linebackers run out wide, and then, hey, have a guy get right in front of the quarterback where he can have it open. High-low combinations. You got to make sure you got someone over the top, but then someone in front of him. Give him a two-way throw. either right in front of him or even over the top. So make the safety make decisions. And defensively, you got to bend, continue to bend, but don't break.
Mhm.
But you got to start getting some stops, slow teams down, give your offense more opportunities. That's going to be key. And on special teams, you've got to control field position. You got to win the special teams battle by either a kickoff return, a block, a punt. Something's got to happen, and you got it without a doubt. You got to win the turnover battles playing against Kansas City.
Yeah, man. Special teams is so important. And Patrick Mahomes coming into this game leads the National Football League in passing yards. He's only played 9 games, but he's already thrown for almost 3,000 yards. I feel like in 10 years from now, there's going to be a 6,000-yard passer. It's getting so ridiculous in the National Football League in terms of the air attack. But listen, Patrick Mahomes comes in. They have a really stout rushing attack led by 7th-round rookie Isaiah Pacheco, who's starting to kind of take more run away from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And of course, Travis Kelce is going to be the key for Kansas City's steamrolling offense. The question is, will the Potters be able to neutralize Kelce? Well, they have a big answer in Derwin James. And can the Chargers put up enough points here? I think those are a lot of keys, to figuring out, Lo, I have a feeling that the Chargers are actually going to stun him here on Sunday night. I have a feeling that the Chargers are going to win this football game, and I think move a lot of heads, because why not? Why not? Sunday Night Football. I wouldn't say the season's on the line, but the division is on the line. The Chargers, if they want to win the division, it's got to win. They got to win this game. And I think they will win this game. I think they win this game 27-21. I think they move a lot of heads, and I think things start going in the right direction, because I think Justin Herbert's getting healthier. If they just get a few of these pieces back, I think they're going to win the game. What about you? What's your score predictions for this one?
First one, mine's simple. The first one to 30 wins this ball game. And like you said, the division's on the line. Yeah, playoffs not on the line, but division is. If you want to win the division, you have to win. And I think it's going to take 30. First team to 30 wins the game. So if the Chargers get the 31st, they win. Kansas City get the 31st, they win. Simple as that.
No doubt, everybody. We'll have it covered live at the end of Chargers Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. I hope everyone's having a great week. Make sure you go check us out. For Lorenzo Neal, I'm Born in Azari, everybody. Signing out. Peace.